has pseudo-class, or a parent selector as we like to call it, is absolutely amazing. It enables you to do a lot of incredible things in your CSS that would otherwise be impossible without JavaScript, or at least without adding a number of unnecessary elements to your HTML. In this video, I will show you how to use it to create a direction-aware hover effect. Let's dive in. Alright, I have a demo on CodePen here, and a link is going to be in the description as always. The setup for this particular demo is very simple. We're actually only going to focus on the unordered list element right here. And as you probably would have guessed, this unordered list actually contains a number of LI items, and each LI item contains a link. That's everything there is to know about HTML. We will not touch that. We'll just focus on CSS to create this beautiful little effect. So let's jump to CSS. And again, there's not much to it, just like with HTML. All you need to know is that we have a simple hover effect on our navigation items that looks like this. As you see here, only thing we're really doing is we're switching colors, color and a background color to get this inverted look and feel. But what we want to do instead is we want to have a nice little effect where the background actually slides up from the bottom. And the way to do that is to actually use pseudo elements. We will add a pseudo element to each of our links here, and that element will have a background, which will be this white color that you see right here. And this will slide up and hover. This is all that we will do for the first step. So let's get to it. We will add another selector here, and we're going to call it header underscore a before. And to use the before element, we are going to need a content. It is going to be empty. We'll position it absolutely. And as you see, our anchor link here already has position relative. And this, of course, means that our before element will be positioned in relation to it. Let's set the width and height for this element, or rather, let's set block and inline size for this element, because you should be using logical properties in your CSS and not physical ones like top, left, bottom, right, width, and height. So if you still haven't, please check my in-depth guide on logical properties. Link will be on the screen and in the description. So let's set the block size and inline size to 100%. Block size is going to be height, and inline size is going to be width, essentially. And we'll set background to red just to see if we gotten anything. And we have, but it's not really positioned perfectly, as you see right here. So we will set inset block start to 0 and inset inline start to 0, which means the top left is going to be exactly as it should be. But instead of this red background, we will use the background we had here. So I'll just copy this and paste it here. And there we go. Now what we want to do is we actually want to position this background on our before element behind that element, and to do that we will just set its z index to -1, which will effectively move it one layer behind, so our text should now be visible. Of course, this state isn't accessible, but on hover it will be, because we are setting this color to black here, or almost black. And as you've noticed, I'm using HSL color syntax here. If you want to know why and how HSL color syntax works, check out my video on HSL colors. Here we want our background element, which will be this before element, to slide up from here to here, which will effectively create this nice little visual effect. And to do that, we will initially just position the block start to 100%, which will effectively push each one of those backgrounds all the way here. So I'm going to set it to 100%, and now it disappeared, as you can see here, and it disappeared because we actually have overflow hidden set on our anchor links. And if I comment this out, you should see that we have background right here underneath each one of our items. And for the time being, I will leave this overflow hidden commented out so you can see exactly what's happening. And as you expect, what we want to do here on hover, we actually want to slide this all the way up exactly to the position where it needs to be. And to do that, we will set inset block start to value 0 on hover. So let's copy this selector here. We're going to be changing before element on hover. And as I said, we will set inset block start to value 0. And let's see what happens here. All right, so now our background is jumping, but we actually want to animate it. And to animate it, we'll add a transition property to our before element here, because this is the element that we're actually animating or moving or transitioning using the inset block start property. So let's set transition. I'll just animate all properties over the course of 0.2 seconds with the is in out transition function. Now this appears to be working fine, but we of course want to hide this background, so we'll just re-enable our overflow hidden on our anchor elements, and now it disappears. And once I hover those items, it's going to slide up. This is already a much nicer effect. The effect we're aiming for is to have this background slide in from bottom left side when we're going in this direction with our mouse cursor. And if we're going in the reverse direction, then we want it to slide in from the bottom right. So this will create an illusion of this directional effect. So let's tweak it and have it slide in from the bottom left. And to do that, you'll set the left property or inset inline start to -100% here. And we will transition it on hover to 0. Again, just the same as inset block start. Inset inline start is going to be 0. So let's see how this looks. And now this is actually sliding in a little bit nicer. And as you can see here, if I'm moving my mouse from one item to the next, it actually just retreats back in the direction where it came from. What I want is actually to follow my cursor. So it slides in from the bottom left, but I want it to slide out if I'm going on the next item, the bottom right. Now, if you look closely, if we're moving our mouse from right to left, this effect appears to be working fine on the out animation because the background is retreating to the bottom left right here, which is exactly as we want it because this appears as it's following our cursor. And just as well, our starting animation is looking fine if we're hovering from left to right. As you can see, the transition in is following my mouse cursor. Effectively, only thing that we need to do is if we have this second item in a hover state, this is going to be YouTube item, we actually want to position our background not in the bottom left, but in the bottom right. And again, to demonstrate what's happening, I'm going to uncomment our overflow property here on the anchor links, so you can see exactly where our backgrounds are and how are they moving. And I'm going to hover them now. As you can see, this background is here and it's going to move exactly to the place where it needs to be, and so on. This is a really nice effect, right? So what we want to do here on YouTube, we actually want to move the newsletter item background to the different side. And there is a really easy way to do this using the has selector. All we actually need to do is we need to select the previous item from the one that is hovered. So we will select header li item if next child or next li item is in the state of hover. So to break it down, we're selecting list item that has its next sibling in a state of hover. And then we will select child item, which is going to be header anchor, or rather it's before pseudo element, because that's exactly where our background is, on the before pseudo element of header anchors, as you can see right here where we created it. And now let's set background to red, for example, just to see if this is actually working. So I'm going to select my newsletter item, and obviously there is no previous item to that one, so there's nothing to select. And YouTube, as you see, works as expected. We are selecting the newsletter item. Twitter is selecting the YouTube item, and the stickers is selecting the Twitter item. And while we're at stickers is actually a project that I'm working on. It's going to be a number of CSS related stickers. If you're curious about it, check the link, sign up, and you're going to be the first one to know when it's launched. In any case, as I said, we actually want to position this previous item, or the red one for this particular case, not at the inset inline start -100%, which is where it is now, but rather to a different end, which is going to be 100%. I'm going to copy this value here, paste it right here, and just tweak it to 100%. And now let's see how this looks. I'm going to hover my newsletter, it's fine. This is fine as well, and as you can see, my previous item is actually moved to a different direction, and this will actually give it an illusion that it's moving exactly with my mouse, as you can see right here. And it's going to work exactly the same for the other elements as well. And to get the actual effect, we are going to comment out the background here, and we will also uncomment our overflow hidden. And now let's see how this actually works and looks. So I'm going to hover from left to right here, and as you can see, hover in effect is as it should be, and hover out effect is as it should be as well. Because newsletter item here is hovering in from left to right, and it's hovering out from left to right as well. So it's not going back from where it started, but it's actually following my mouse. So this is a really simple way to create a bidirectional hover effect using the has selector. Effectively, the only thing that we need to do is to use one has pseudo class, and everything else just works exactly as we would expect it. Now, this is not a perfect effect, but I think it's good enough for you to use in production. And the beautiful thing about it is that if the browser is not supporting has, effectively, the effect that you will going to get is this, which means that everything will work as expected. You just won't have this effect following in your mouse. Or if you want to have a different effect in that particular case, then you can use supports at rule to detect if the browser supports has, and if not, you can do a different kind of effect. And check out my video on has or supports at rule if you want to know more about any of those subjects. Have you already used has pseudo-class? Please let me know in the comments. As you can see, I love playing with it and I love showing you how to actually enhance your designs with just a couple of lines of code, as you've seen in this particular video. Thank you so much for your attention. My name is Zoran Jambor. I will see and hear you in the next relational pseudo-class. Rather than the next video.